Welcome back to another episode of The PA is In. I am so excited to welcome our guest, Annie Wildermuth. Annie is a PA, she has a PhD, she's a registered dietitian, and a certified coach who's going to talk to us all about coaching, professional development, leadership, and a lot about career strategy, how to prepare for those pivots, how to know it's time to make a change, and how to do that intentionally and passionately. Without further ado, here she is, PA and leadership coach, Annie Wildermuth. Welcome to The PA is In, the show created by PAs for PAs, where codependency with your supervising physician is a thing of the past, optimal team practice is the future, and physician associate has taken the place of physician assistant as the professional title of choice. I'm Tracy Bingaman, and I'm obsessed with redefining what success as a PA looks like and what it feels like. Here you'll find the mindset shifts, systems, and processes I use to escape healthcare burnout and integrate my work into my life. Work-life balance is a myth, and an integrated life where you thrive professionally, not a balancing act, is the goal here. My mission is to help you to grow into a unicorn PA who loves their job, has abundant energy, time to spare, and work-optional financial freedom. The PA is in. Annie, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me, Tracy. I'm really excited to join and to talk about these topics today.
You could take a minute to introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us who you are and what you do.
I'm Annie Wildermuth, and I've been a PA since 2012. I've worked primarily in emergency medicine throughout my clinical career, but I've had a variety of other hats that I've kind of woven together over the period of my career. I started in academics, teaching PA students in 2016. And during that time, really got connected with the military medical community, supporting the military PA program as well. And since then, I've kind of branched in several different directions through teaching, leadership development, and helping people navigate their careers. And I've done that with the military communities and with all sorts of different healthcare professionals. From that period of time, I transitioned to working actually in medical schools. So a little bit away from PA education, but very similar in terms of teaching others, supporting the development of different clinicians. My last role, I was working with dentists and PAs and physicians and nurses, all who were trying to figure out kind of what was next in their career. And a couple of years ago, I became a coach, and I'm an International Coaching Federation certified coach. And I work with people navigating some of these complex decisions who are trying to make their current positions better, trying to figure out what to do next, how to cure burnout and feel more fulfilled in life. And so I kind of put all of these things together, clinical practice, supporting people on their journeys. And really, that's where I am now. It's looked different at these different kind of phases and check marks, but it's all been kind of the same root cause of trying to help people figure out where they want to go next.
Have you ever wondered if your malpractice policy is providing you with enough coverage? Turns out that employers' policies protect their interests and not necessarily yours. CM&F Group offers personal liability protection that adapts to your growing, changing responsibilities, including state compacts and allowing for protection for practicing medicine across state lines. From telemedicine to license and HIPAA defense, if it's something that you need protection for, CM&F has you covered. PA students can even enjoy a completely free student policy from your first day as a student until you become a licensed PAC. In a climate where we are hyper aware of charting wording, covering ourselves, and constantly worried about practicing defensive medicine, you can't leave your liability coverage up to chance. Enjoy the peace of mind, exceptional customer service, and find the best comprehensive coverage that fits your practice at www.cmfgroup.com/thepaisin or click the link in the show notes. And this is such an important thing that we don't learn about in school: career strategy and pivoting and really being in charge of our own destiny. I think as a clinician who's been practicing about the same amount of time as you, when we came out, there was sort of one path. You graduate, you get certified, and then you see patients. And then someday you retire. And now the potential for that looks totally different. There's so many opportunities for consulting and non-clinical and pivots in education and academia and all these other avenues that I think it can feel very overwhelming as a clinician. How do I know what I would be good at? How do I know what is of interest to me? So can you give us a little taste of how you sort of walk through choosing some of those pivots with your clients?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of this started with my own realization when I was a clinician. I was faced with a geographic move. I was moving from Arizona to Nebraska and thinking to myself, hey, this is an opportunity to maybe try something different. I'd been working in the ER for many years and I had always loved teaching, but that really felt like the only kind of other option at the time. And part of kind of growing in this space is learning that no, there's actually quite a few other potential options for us to explore. And when I work with people on this now, which is much of what I did with myself too, it's identifying the things that I value, just some kind of core character things really that are values to me. And then how to match that to potential jobs that I'm considering or could maybe even build for myself. And so it's kind of instead of starting with the job first and seeing like, oh, is that something I'm interested in? It's looking at myself first and my clients first, and then helping them see, does this meet your goals and where you want to go?
That's so important. I found one of the very fastest ways to feel burned out and resentful and taken advantage of is when your values do not align with that of your team or your group or your employer, because that is just the fast track to feeling like you don't fit, like it doesn't fit your life, like you just can't get on board with the direction that the group is going. And those things all tend to make us feel like, is it me? Like you're looking around like, am I the problem here?
Work is such a big part of our lives. We spend a lot of time there. And I always tell people when I'm talking about jobs and contracts and career pivots and things like that, the people you work with make a phenomenal difference in terms of how you're going to feel in a role, more than almost any other factor. And I really think it's about that sense of belonging that we spend so much time in this place, it really turns into kind of a community. And if we don't feel like we fit there, and if we're not vibing with these people, it's not our jam, then we're always going to feel like an outsider and we're going to feel disconnected from the work that we're doing.
And that's not a recipe for feeling like you're fulfilled or passionate or like you have the energy to sort of want to do more or lean in and do more is when you're really sort of disconnected and you're not aligned. This is an area that oftentimes organizations are not built for APPs to have these, opportunities for professional development, these pathways into leadership. So if someone is looking around at their current employer and they don't really see themselves reflected in the leadership team or in some of these places that there are resources for some of our colleagues, is that something that they can build? Is that something they can sort of look outside the organization for someone like you to help them, navigate?
I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. One of the things that I like to start with is this an organization where you'd want to be a leader in? I think that's one of the first questions you have to ask because just because you don't see someone like yourself yet doesn't mean you can't create that. But do you want to create it? And some of these factors are outside of your control. Some organizations may not be open yet to having a specific PA leadership role or a PA in some of those positions. Some may be open to it though, and you don't know until you start to have those conversations. I do think that working with a coach, Tracy, you're a coach too, and I think having extra support and good mentorship can really help in this space. But really starting with that core thought of, is this something that I want to do and do I want to do it here, is a really valuable launching off point. And then communicating the needs that you have and your goals and seeing if your organization is willing to kind of come together to support you. If they're not, then you have an answer about, okay, this isn't going to work here. Do I want to stay here in this role? Do I want to look elsewhere? But it's just kind of another data point that you can internalize and then work with somebody else to get kind of some guidance, second opinion, and really figure out some other next steps.
I find non-clinical work is very sexy and tempting, especially to clinicians who are feeling like I've sort of been on the hamster wheel. I've been seeing patients, I've been charting, I've been rinse and repeat, come in the next day, do the next shift. And that these non-clinical options seem to offer more flexibility, some upward mobility in terms of pay, some new exciting opportunities. In your experience, Has it been better? Is the grass greener on that non-clinical side of the coin?
Gosh, I have so many thoughts on this. On one hand, I think sometimes it can be really amazing to have these non-clinical opportunities. Other times, I find myself actually missing patient care. I'm looking right now to actually increase that in my own life because I've kind of gotten a little further away from it than I'd prefer. And I always thought that that would kind of solve some problems for me, give me more control over my life and more kind of ability to schedule the things that matter to me. But what I learned about myself was that clinical care was something that it was actually really important to me. I had kind of forgotten what that joy in practicing medicine was like. So when thinking about this topic, like, is the grass really greener? I think it circles back again to that. What is your values? And can are we running towards something or are we running away from something? When we're running towards something, it's because it's aligned with our values, the people we want to work with, the type of things that we want to do. So if moving into non-clinical work is because you're really actually excited about that non-clinical work, the leadership opportunities that it presents, some continuing education opportunities that it may present, then great. That might be really aligned with what you want to do. If it's in kind of an escape from burnout and an escape from the monotony or challenge of patient care, and it's just kind of the next thing, I don't know that it's going to feel so fulfilling until you kind of think through some of those other elements.
The hard work of examining the motivation and the reasons, right? Are you doing it for the quote unquote right reasons, the reasons that are aligned and durable and going to be something that you value long term? Or is it that you're so fed up with the way things are right now? You're like, I'd take anything, right? I would go anywhere and do anything just to get out of the situation that I'm in, and sort of carefully teasing out why. Why do I feel tempted to make this change? Why would that be? And also, I heard a podcast once ages and ages ago that's like, it's easy to look at something and say, oh, that would be great. It would be great if, right? If I had that income, if I had that flexibility, if I could work from home, if I could travel so much. But then when you actually think about what would that mean for my life? Like this week, like on a day like today, would I be traveling? Would I be home for my kids? Whatever. Like when you actually look at, what would that mean for me? Sometimes it's just, oh, it seems tempting because of some of these perks, but not because of what it would really look like day to day, week to week in my life.
I think about how, while I have more flexibility now in terms of how to schedule things, I'm actually working more now than I ever worked as a clinician. And the ability to work remotely or do telework a couple days a week now means I'm accessible like all of those days every day. So it's not like you just get to go on vacation whenever you want to. Like, you're actually working when you're there, if you're using that flexibility to travel, right? It doesn't mean that you just kind of pause those other aspects of your life. And so I think it's exactly what you were talking about. Like, logistically, what does this really look like? And is that really the answer or choice that I want to make? Does it solve the current needs that are in my life?
We've so far been talking about some pretty big shifts, right? Going from clinical to non-clinical, going from, in-person at the bedside patient care to some sort of remote role or something in a different, non-clinical space. What are some changes that clinicians can make to themselves? Because sometimes that's all that we can impact inside of the healthcare system or our organization, or in the work that we're doing, so we can make smaller tweaks to feel more fulfilled and less burned out.
I read a book that I absolutely love by Daniel Pink called Drive, and he talks about three things in that book that I've really adopted in my own life, which are looking at autonomy, mastery, and purpose. Autonomy is getting control over our schedule and how we would prefer to work. And mastery is the ability to kind of grow into a space that we're curious about. And purpose is having our work aligned with some kind of purpose that's important to us. And when I talk to clinicians about what are some small changes they can make in their life, it's really in those three buckets a lot of times. How can you create a little more schedule flexibility for yourself? How can you do work that matters to you? And how can you learn about something that piques your interest and kind of grow in this space that maybe is outside of the clinical realm, maybe it's within the clinical realm, but it gives you kind of renewed sense of interest and purpose in the things that you're doing. So I certainly can't take credit for those three ideas, but I do find that when I'm coaching people, those are themes where you can move the needle just a little bit, and it makes a phenomenal difference in the things that you're doing. I remember when I first started coaching a couple of years ago, and I had done a lot of mentoring and advising and facilitating and things like that. But it was all of a sudden I like fell in love again with this area of work that was new to me. And having that drive to be able to learn how to work with people in a new way and help people in a new way kind of refueled my career again. So, like, sometimes it's finding just one of those new things you can lean into a little bit that you have ownership over that can be really helpful.
Clinical burnout, it's not necessarily just that there is too much work to be done, which is often true, and those are things we cannot control, patient demand and some schedules and some things that are placed upon us, but not enough of work that you are excited about doing. So if you're in a space or you're in a specialty where you feel like, yeah, this has sort of become mundane, I feel lots of work and not a ton of reward, is there something that you can do, either identifying an area that your practice doesn't do well, right? We're not serving patients well in this specific area. These people aren't getting what they need. They're falling through the cracks. We're not following up appropriately with them. And say, hey, I want to take this on, which seems so counterintuitive. Like, I want to do more because I feel burned out, but I want to take this on because I feel passionately that those patients deserve better than the way that we're treating them, than what we're doing for them. And that little spark of excitement about work that could be a small portion of what you're doing can make all the difference in terms of, hey, I feel like I can stay here because there is something I'm excited about doing.
Yeah. I think you hit on a really kind of nuanced point around burnout. There's a lot of people in the medical field who really actually enjoyed work at one point. Like, they like to work hard. People don't seek out healthcare careers because they want to hit an easy button. The training is hard, right? So there's some component of this that, like, you enjoy hard work and you enjoy putting yourself into the work that you're doing. And so the answer to burnout can't just be, oh, I want to work less. Like, that doesn't solve all the problems. It may solve a tiny piece of it, at least initially, but at some point that kind of urge to serve or to help or to recapitalize on things that you're interested in is going to kick in again. So working with a coach, talking to a mentor can help you create those opportunities either in your role at your current environment that you're in, or maybe even outside of it.
I'm sure in working with clients, you have had people who have, through working with you, come to the realization like, this isn't it, right? I'm looking around this organization. I have just realized my values don't align. What I want for my career is probably not here. What words do you have for that person who may have come to that realization on their own that, hey, this is maybe not the place, to start taking some steps, which can feel very scary in terms of like, prepping their CV, looking for other positions, like getting ready to take those steps to make a clinical change?
First of all, congratulations that you've identified it's time to make a change, because moving towards a big potential change is often like the hardest part. Once you've decided you need to make the change, then things start to feel a little bit more manageable sometimes. I like to encourage people to take things in bite sized chunks. I like to start sometimes with literally just making a list of all the things that I need to do to facilitate this change, which might be updating your CV, starting to have conversations with people in fields that you might want to go into, doing a little more networking, thinking about what are those values that I'm looking for in a new role. And that doesn't mean you have to do it all at once. I think sometimes it feels really overwhelming when you think about, oh, here's this huge list. I need to do it today, or this isn't going to happen. Like, you've been in your role for some time. Like, it'll take a little bit of time to kind of get these pieces in play, but it's worth it to spend the time kind of exploring those different areas. And so just taking one bite at a time, doing what feels manageable, and then you're going to get to the place that you want to go.
And can you speak a little to that person's doubts that they can learn something new? This is something that comes up in my one on one coaching with clients a lot, where people say, well, I saw this job, but it was neurosurgery. And I've never done neurosurgery before. And that seems really overwhelming to me. I think as clinicians, we can learn to do any area of medicine. We already know how to take care of patients. What's your advice for that person that's like, that feels overwhelming to learn something new?
Yeah, I hear the word overwhelm a lot. I think people don't doubt their capability of doing it. It's more like how am I going to fit this in? My life feels unmanageable right now. But the reality is that like there's a ramp up period in any new job to some extent. It's going to give you a little bit of space and time to grow. The other thing is that you've been able to learn and do hard things before. Like that skill has not gone away, and it's not going to be uncomfortable forever. I think part of it is just recognizing that it's going to be uncomfortable for a period of time, at least 3 to 6 months, probably. And having that mindset that, like, in the beginning, there's going to be some growing pains, helps a lot in terms of setting expectations for yourself and kind of everyone around you, too. Um, One of the other things that I really like encourage people to do is have a bunch of allies, whoever they are, whether it be your family or spouse, so that they're there to support you during what will probably feel like a little bit of a challenging transition. But at the end of the day, like you are more than capable of learning these kind of new skills that you need in your new role. And you're going to have to do the same thing if you transition to a non clinical role. It's going to be learning all over again. So, really, anytime we change a role, it's going to be a period of learning. So I totally get the discomfort. I also think it's well within possibility.
And that's one of those things, choose your hard, right? Choose the hard of staying somewhere you've outgrown, where you don't feel fulfilled and you're just being drained on a daily basis, or choose to get excited and feel drained for a different reason and know, like, hey, the day I start this new job, all is not going to be right. Everything is not going to be magically better, but at least I made a change. At least I'm moving towards a direction of something that I'm doing on purpose with passion, which does make a huge, huge difference.
And I really reflect on the time. So I have switched specialties a couple of times. I switched from surgery to emergency medicine, and then did urgent care and occupational medicine for a bit, and then back to the ER. Each of those times felt sort of like I was staring up at a mountaintop before I started. But then just taking the first step of like walking through the door on the first day, like all of a sudden it felt immensely easier. Like I had done the first hard thing, which was just showing up, and then you just keep choosing to take another step forward, and like you'll get there.
This is sort of off topic, but it's going to relate back to that. So, for those of you that don't know, Annie and I are both long distance endurance athletes, when we're well, when we're healthy, and when we're participating. And I did my first 70.3 Ironman over the summer. And Annie, despite the fact that we are real life friends, but we don't live close to each other and we don't know each other that well, that day you were tracking me on the app and you texted me. You were one of the first texts that I got, that when I finished, that you were so proud of me and sending your congratulations. And I remember on the bike, I was probably, 20 miles into this 56-mile ride. And at one point, I literally said out loud to myself slash whoever happened to be around me while I was biking at that moment, "Oh my God, I'm doing it!" Like it's happening. It's actually happening. And there's something so powerful about, I prepared for, I was like ready to make this transition or do this thing. And then the doing it, when you're doing it, it doesn't feel quite as scary as the anticipation of the doing.
I can so relate to that. I remember my first 70.3 triathlon, and there was just like a point you hit where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to finish this thing. Like I'm here, like it's going fine. I'm doing it. And there's so much work that goes into the preparation piece that in our minds we should know, yes, we're capable of doing this. But sometimes it's actually taking that step and like putting our toe on the line and jumping into the water and doing the thing that really proves to ourselves that we're able to do it.
Yeah, I think that's another reminder that doubt and anticipation that we feel when we're readying ourselves for a transition can feel like a big hurdle, and that it's pretty easy to get caught up in the what if I can't, or what if they don't want someone like me, or what if they really do want this and such experience. And then actually taking the action is sometimes the easier thing, to be in motion and to be doing the thing.
I was coaching somebody the other day, and applying for new jobs after a particularly challenging employment situation that they were in. And they were like, well, what if I apply to a job and I don't hear back? And it was interesting to think about that because I've had that experience many times where your application just goes off into a vacuum. And I talk about it a lot in the career workshops I do, that there's a good likelihood that that would happen. But for this person, it was really scary to think about it because it was tied to values and so much kind of expectation about needing to get back out there. And so I think it's really important to just kind of remember that sometimes there's some hiccups along the road that we have no control over at all. And the act of putting yourself out there is a vulnerable thing, and it's what's going to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. And don't let that, it has to be the perfect job, the perfect opportunity. I have to do it perfectly. They have to respond perfectly. It has to be this finely choreographed dance. That's rarely how it looks, right? It's fits and starts and you call them again and it doesn't usually, in my experience, very rarely is it just like super smooth, right? Like that's not the only way that it can go. It can go real clunky and still end up okay in the
Are you confident you know where your next dollar should go? 403b, 457, HSA, or Roth? There are so many options. Sometimes it can feel overwhelming. A lot of providers aren't sure if their investment mix is optimized, if they're contributing enough to their investment accounts, or if they're paying too much in taxes. Meet Caleb Pepperday, a fee-only financial planner and founder of Advanced Practice Planning, LLC. Caleb helps PAs create a clear plan of action that allows them to fast-track their path to work optional living, all while keeping more of what they earn today. Caleb's process identifies the strategies that make the most sense for each PA situation and provides step-by-step guidance to put them into action. For our listeners, Caleb is offering a free one-on-one consultation where he will provide feedback on the steps you've taken in your own financial situation and if you're on track to achieve your goals. Caleb will also help you to determine if your situation warrants needing to work with a financial planner or if you're on track doing it by yourself. Head to advancedpracticeplanning.com/FI to grab your free consultation time slot. These consultations are capped each week to keep turnaround fast. That's advancedpracticeplanning.com/FI.
Advanced Practice Planning LLC is a registered investment advisor in Montana and Pennsylvania. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Advanced Practice Planning LLC and its representatives are properly registered or exempt from registration. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. This advertisement is for informational purposes only and does not constitute individualized advice or a guarantee that you will achieve a desired result. All topics discussed in this podcast are the opinion of the podcast host and not of Advanced Practice Planning LLC or its advisors.
If people are wondering, hey, what types of services do you offer? Because I feel like coaching and leadership and professional development are all buzzwords, but like what does that look like for someone to actually work with you? Is it one session? Is it a series of sessions? How does that work?
Yeah, so I work with people in a lot of different capacities. So as a coach, I coach people on whatever topic's important to them. And so sometimes people are reaching out to me because they're trying to get unstuck. Sometimes they're reaching out because they're about to make a career pivot and they're not sure what direction they want to go. Sometimes it's about burnout, or sometimes they're working with really difficult people in their lives and they need some help in figuring out how to do that best. So I do a lot of one-on-one work, and it really varies by the person how long we work together. Some people I have ongoing relationships with who we just stay in coaching for a period of time because it's helpful for them to have that career support, once a month or something for an enduring time period. Other people who are navigating a very specific problem, like I'm looking to identify a new role, we meet somewhere between 3 and 5 times and figure out their next steps, and then that's that. So that's kind of how the kind of coaching piece looks. It's very one size, it's very individualized to the person as to what their needs are. As far as leadership development work goes, I do a lot of teaching in that space. So I work with teams, either to facilitate meetings, to coach them as a team towards a goal, or coming in to provide workshops on different topics like negotiation or communication, or how to actually develop coaching themselves throughout the organization to make the organization function better. So those are different kind of offerings that I have for more of the organizations, I would say, in the teams that I work with. But really, it looks different depending on everybody and their needs. And I've done a lot of work in a lot of those different spaces.
A lot of this career strategy, sort of strategic planning for clinicians, in my experience, is a piece that we tend not to think about until we're in a situation where we really need it. Like we think like we don't have a plan until suddenly we've got to get out of a situation. So how can we encourage listeners to be just more proactive, even if you're not working with a coach, like thinking yourself, like what's next, where am I going, in that strategic planning space for our careers?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a preponderance of people who reach out when they're in crisis. And I think there's an opportunity for meaningful reflection along the way. Humans like to grow and like to learn by default. And so you can just assume that at some point you're probably going to outgrow the thing that you're doing because that's what normal human tendency would be. So, whatever works for you in terms of setting intentions, setting some time aside to reflect, whether it's journaling or meditation or having a goal sheet that you keep posted and you update it on the wall of your office or wherever you can look at it, I think is really helpful. I try to set aside time for myself once every week or so to look over what are my current goals, what are the things that are no longer serving me, and where do I think that I want to go next. The other element of all of this is I think it's kind of baked into just life in general that we should know where we're going and that there's a destination to be arrived at. We ask like 4 and 5 year olds, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right. But almost everybody that I talk to, and I've felt this way myself, is like, oh, I'm still figuring it out. I don't know what I want to do next. And that's okay. Like I don't know, I've just followed my nose. Like I've done a whole bunch of different jobs over my professional career so far, and some of them are related and some of them are unrelated. And I think really it's okay not to know, but spending some of that intentional time to figure out what matters to you now is really helpful.
And that it can be a little bit of work on your part now to just sort of think about, hey, if I wasn't doing this, what would I want to be doing? Like, what would prompt me to leave? And just sort of doing that reflection and that work when it's not on fire, right? When it's not suddenly there's a supervisor I can't stand and I have to get out of here, but rather when it is a little more measured and a little more, hey, if I wasn't doing this, what would I do? What would be a good move for me? What can I focus on? And just sort of more gently. I feel like it's like, oh, it's an emergency versus like preventative medicine, right? We're like talking about the preparation in a way that is less rushed and more calm versus I have to right now make a change and it's got to be a big one and it feels like heavy and drastic and urgent.
I think when people are doing that, thinking about how the role that you want work to play in your life, like don't have it be two separate lists. Like this is my work list, this is my life list. Like these things have to coexist. And so what's important to you can extend to a variety of different avenues of your life. And like the threshold for boundary setting or leaving can extend to like multiple different areas of your life. And I don't know, I find it really helpful, and I know my clients have too, to think about all of those things together as one person navigating a complex world.
In my life, sometimes those things are at odds. Sometimes you have to choose between the opportunity and what you want in your life, and that's okay. It's okay to do that. It made it much harder for me to decide to walk away from some of those situations, sort of knowing, hey, this was a great opportunity. It is a good job. It's just not the opportunity or the job for me right now, and that's okay. If people want to learn more, to follow along, to find out what you do or how to engage with your services, where is a good place for them to go and follow along and connect with you?
Sure. So you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Annie Wildermuth. I also have a website. It's firstroadleadership.com. And that's the name of my business, First Road Leadership Solutions. We also have a page on LinkedIn that you can connect with me there. And I would absolutely love to chat about whatever's going on in your life right now. And if it's not working with me, I'd be happy to connect you to other people that might be able to help you with what's going on.
Awesome. Well, Annie, thank you so much for the time and the wisdom. I think everyone can learn something from a reminder that, hey, this is your life and your career, and having a strategy and doing those things intentionally do make a difference. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. This was a great conversation.
It can be so easy to feel stuck in a rut, stuck where we don't want to be anymore, like we feel like we're in a job, but we don't have opportunities for growth or change. I love any conversation that reminds us that we are writing our own life story, that we get to choose when to make changes, how to make changes, and to do those things with intention and with purpose. Thank you, as always, for tuning in to another episode of The PA is In. That's all for today. This PA is out. Congratulations. You've just joined an awesome club. By listening to a full episode of The PA is In, you are officially on the Unicorn PA team. Welcome aboard. What most team members do is they subscribe to the podcast because that allows them to automatically get the latest episode of the show. The life of your dreams exists on the other side of taking action. Keep making small shifts and keep getting better. Your life will improve, your career will soar, and you will have the confidence you need to create your own success. I will see you in the next episode. This PA is out.